Alright guys, I am going to take the Buddy 125 out. Today might be the last ride. I think it is the last ride. I have the new owner coming. Well, it's a little chilly today, but I wanted to get one last ride on the Buddy. Such a cool scooter, man. We'll just do a little bit of a ride around Burtonsville. But I love this bike, and surprisingly, this bike handles very well. It's fun because of the really tiny wheels. It makes it so much more fun. And today is windy, and I am very thankful I got this thing. It's so windy. This thing is so light, I get blown around. That is the downside of a tiny little scooter. Burtonsville Dental Care, very nice. Yeah, if you have teeth. That's the Mr. Tire. Tropical Smoothie Cafe. Oh yeah, they have good smoothies. A lot of sugar though. That's a physical therapy thing in case I get hit by a car, which is very likely. Here's a pickup truck. Oh, mulch. Why do they have mulch over here? Oh, that's a lot of mulch. Yeah, I like to go around these buildings for some reason in the back. I kind of feel like I'm exploring, like I'm a Christopher Columbus of strip malls. Well, I'm gonna miss this little bike. It was a fun one. This is my second Buddy 125. Yeah, this is the genuine Buddy 125. It's a 2009, and it's really kind of a fantastic bike. It needs some work, but the motor is excellent on it. It needs the belts changed in the transmission, but let me just talk to you guys about this a little bit. This is a 125, so therefore you need a license for this thing. But it's so cute that people don't really care. And in DC, you often see these running around without any tags and everything. It's got like the 10-inch wheels on front and rear, and disc brakes up front with 2 pot caliper brakes, and in the rear is just a drum brake. The suspension is fairly good on it. The limiting factor, which is also its advantage, is the small wheels make it very unstable, but it makes it much more fun because it does turn into corners like sharply and very quickly, much more than a bigger size wheel. The suspension is very normal for this. It's a conventional suspension, and you're not going to have any hard times finding different suspension for your weight. And the cool thing about scooters, you can fix these up and mod them very cheaply. You know, if you get into the car scene, modding a car is much more expensive. Of course, this one has got a kickstart and electric start. Very useful. You know, most of the Japanese bikes that are over 50 do not have kickstart. My SH and Elite do not have it, but I do wish that they would put a kickstart into the bikes as a backup. The color on this is so I think this is my favorite color of the genuines. You know, it's just so cool having this color. And you can see here the dipstick, so you can check the oil. It doesn't use up a lot of oil. It's I think 1 quart, not even 1 quart. The big benefit of this, it's carburetor, so it's very easy to like adjust, maintain. I do prefer fuel injection and everything, but there is something unique about a carbed bike. And when you ride this, and then you ride my Elite 110 or SH 150, as soon as you start, you do see the refinement of the Elite 110, for example, but it doesn't have the character. It does feel like an appliance when you compare it to this. This is a complaint that you often hear from motorcycle riders. You know, motorcycle riders, when they get Ducatis, BMWs, any of the exotics, they complain about a bike not having a soul. And they talk about Japanese bikes as being almost kind of like appliances instead of motors with gears and like, you know, just with raw kind of like emotion. I kind of feel the same thing with this when I compare it to the Elite 110. Why is that guy going so fast through there? I kind of think about it the same way when I look at this in the Elite. This one just feels absolutely like a very vibrant, emotional bike, and I think people that get this often will have a good positive reaction to scootering. And a lot of these are beginner bikes, because I see a lot of people that want to get scooters, they'll just get this, and it is a good bike. Of the genuine scooters that I have seen, people rave about the genuine Buddy 125. People stack tons of miles on them. The motors and the transmissions, they're very abundant, so you can get parts for them everywhere. I believe that the engine is like just a Chinese engine that was put into, I have no idea. It's a Taiwanese brand, but I think the motor is very compatible with the Chinese parts, because the last genuine 125 I had a Chinese carb in it. I don't know what happened to the original, but it had it. So it's a really kind of fantastic, reliable bike, and it's amazing the quality that you're getting from Taiwan as opposed to what was in the past. You know, like when you look at older stuff, it just doesn't work as well. But this one, you know, I have had like a Chinese scooter, and that thing, you rode it, and every ride there was like something else to do. It needed, you know, some adjustment. The carburetor would go off, but this thing it's solid. It is a solid bike, and you would think that for the price that you would pay for these, that somehow you would get lesser quality, but you don't. You do get almost Japanese quality with this, and it's got a lot of character, and it's got a high amount of fun factor. So let me show you around. Over here you have a kind of unique dash that I do like a lot. My last one didn't have the windscreen, but this is a genuine scooter windscreen, so it is kind of expensive and very effective, and at the same time it's not big enough that it's in the way in the summertime. So in the summertime this is still pretty decent, because it keeps the bugs off of you. And then it does have a fuel gauge, which is very nice, but it's all covered up. And most of the time these days there is a need for charging your phone and having a GPS, because people use GPSs to get around. There's nothing to really bolt on a GPS unless you use the windscreen or mirror mounts, which is what people tend to do. But I kind of wish there was a way of integrating it into future designs. But the design and the look that you get from riding from here, even if it didn't have this windscreen, this is a really nice, stylish scooter. Like I think it's probably one of the better looking scooters that I've had. It just got this old Italian Vespa style from the 1960s that I really like, but it's modern. And the controls are a little bit on the cheap side. Like when you like touch it, you kind of feel that there's a little bit of an inferior quality. It's got the usual stuff, electric start. It's got hazards, like a hazard button, which is kind of interesting. You have your turn signals, your horn. The horn is very loud. And down here you have a place to put your phone, wallet, big enough socket here you can put a water bottle, and of course you have a 12-volt cigarette lighter or 12-volt charger, which is good for phone charging. It's very cool. And then you have your usual grocery bag hook. Let's open up the trunk. Trunk is incredibly useful because it is deep enough to put a helmet in there. And of course this hump here is where the carburetor would sit and do this bolt, and basically you can get at it, and the hump here doubles as a place to put your helmet. That way you should be able to close it. Sometimes different full-size helmets will have different sizes, so it's a little bit different. Your gas tank is here, and there is no fuel pump, so the gas sits up top and it just flows directly into the carburetor. The seat is pretty comfortable. Now the one thing is that it is a very short scooter. From here to here is very short, so it's not really for like very big people. And you saw on the ride that I hit my knee when I hit a bump. So, and then of course in the rear you can notice that like this does have some damage. Integrated signals, that's something that you don't see on the Hondas. My Elite has got like the stocks. Here's an interesting thing about this thing that I didn't know. These lights in Europe, they have these as the turn signals and running lights, and not here. So you can see here the stock turn signals are high up on top. I think it's some legalization that they need them for the United States, but a lot of people have kits in their Buddy 125s that integrate both, and it does look better without the turn signals up on top. But this one, I probably would just keep it like this, but I think the new owner is going to be putting them down there. I think he is going to spend quite some money to fix it all up. Another very interesting option that you have is that you see these two holes here. You push them in, break them, and then you can install a foldable front rack, which is very useful. And on this bike you would think it would ruin the looks, but because of the chrome finish that it has, it actually gives it a very timeless look. The rear rack that is not on here right now also is chrome, so it looks really good. Like, for some reason I am not really into chrome in bikes, but on these bikes it does look good. It's a nice highlight. It's a nice design element to it. You know, most of the time I do like bikes for their design. I think this one is kind of a little bit of a timeless design. It doesn't seem like it would go out of style, because, you know, I kind of compare it to Porsche. Porsche, that design that they have in the 911s is a timeless design, and I think it's the same thing with Vespa. And I kind of believe that Genuine copies that Vespa style a little bit, makes it a little bit smaller, makes it a little bit cuter, but still uses that very timeless design on this. And I think that's why this one sells quite a bit. It's popular. And of course, here's another thing, they just kind of spoil you with things, these Genuine and Kymcos, because they have to compensate for lack of name brand. They do give you a lot for your money. So this one's got electric start, kick start, and then it's got a kickstand and center stand. Normally most scooters just have a center stand because they're so small, you don't really need it. But it is nice to have, because often I'll put it like this, and then I'll put my kickstand, just leave it like that. And sometimes on bike racks, you're doing like deliveries or whatever, you just kind of want to do that. It is nice to have, but not really needed. And when you sit behind this thing, it does feel like a good timeless little scooter. Well guys, that's the Buddy 125. I hope you enjoyed it. It's a great scooter, and I think if you have very limited amount of money, this is probably one of the better things you could get, because it's just as reliable as a Japanese bike and just as fun as any other scooter. Probably a little bit more fun than the Elite 110 and the SH150 I currently have.
Comes a tall, handsome man, right. In a dusty black coat with a red right hand.
Kind of stuck here. The cops won't bother me.